Today we'll be working on some DIY farmhouse style home decor crafts, so let's get started with project number 1. Now this project's going to be really easy. I found this sign at a thrift store. I loved it because of the rustic framing around already. I love the metalwork, although I'm going to save that for another project. So first thing I'm going to do is get this metalwork off because I have another sign that this is going to be perfect as, you know, the first word of it. I'm going to definitely save that. I don't really like this background piece. I'll get that out of there. I could reuse the backing and kind of pull all this stuff off, but I'm like, I'm too lazy. So I just cut, or had my husband cut a piece the same size to fit in the back, and that's what I'm going to use. Nice and easy. First thing I'm going to do, Dixie Belle chalk paint in the color drop cloth. I'm going to just do a couple of coats on this wood piece front and back. So, you know, if you ever see any kind of, even just frames themselves, you all know at thrift stores or anything like that, grab it because it's so easy to just kind of, you know, upcycle it a little bit. And even if you don't have wood or access to wood, I mean, Home Depot, those kind of things can cut wood for you. You could use foam board, anything like that. So this is a wood heart. They come in a set of 4. I use them all the time from craftingwithkimber.com. I will have the link down below for you. You all know I love using these hearts. Been using them the last however long in the last couple of signs I did. I traced around it and I'm just coming in about 1/8 of an inch in and I'm redrawing that pattern to cut it out. This is double-sided paper here, and that way once it's traced, you can have that little bit of wood perimeter around the heart as you see here around the paper. Now I'm just going to come in and just use some black chalk paint and just paint the front of it here. I will do, once all the paint's dry on this heart and the sign off camera, I will go ahead and distress everything. This is what it looks like. Everything's distressed there. And I even went ahead and distressed around the frame a little bit. Just took a little bit of that coloring off so it looks like I really spent some time on this frame even though I didn't. Now, I will have a link down below to my blog for PDF and PNG for you. This is a free printable for you. And I'll have the font names as well if you just want to type it up yourself. But, you know, PDF, you can print it out, resize it. You might have to, you know, for whatever kind of size sign you need, you know, and then you can use carbon paper and you can paint it out, or paint pens, of course PNG. If you have an electronic cutting machine, you can, you know, clean out the background and everything in between the letters and cut it out, or the fonts, of course, and just retype it yourself because it might be quicker than cleaning out the PNG format. But anyway, I will have the link down below because I'll have some other printables throughout this video for you as well. So I'm just going to place this on here off camera. I've already kind of, I'm like really like got to be perfect with, you know, measurements right to left, top to bottom. So I already figured out where it needs to be. So made my marks on my sign, just using my little brayer here and my little scraper to get this onto the wood, and then you know, just peeling off that transfer sheet here to pull this off. We've all seen this quote here and there, but I just changed it up a little bit to fit kind of what I like, and that's the beauty of it, you know, because the original sign I saw was like, I don't do that. So I just kind of changed it up a little bit to fit my needs. All right, I'm going to use some wood glue here just to get my sign in. I'm going to do a little bit of wood glue, and then I'll use some just tiny little finishing nails as well. Just painting it on with a paintbrush here because it's just such a small, slender area, and it's easier for me to just kind of paint it on here a little bit with the paintbrush around the framing there versus on the main sign itself. Put that in. And then you can see my tiny little nails here. I'll show you, and I'll do that off camera. Oh, look here. I saved my distressing of my heart for you, so to do it on camera. Distress just around the edges a little bit. Now, on this one, I ran it through my sewing machine. I sewed around the edges and everything. I didn't show you that because I'll show you some of that throughout the other projects. And now I'm just using the open end of my scissor blades to kind of scrape along the edges here to give it a little bit more distressing. And this kind of helps give it a little bit of a white around the paper. So when I use my Beacon Fabrica glue to glue it on, that kind of white border around there just kind of helps pop it up off the wood a little bit. And this is what it looks like. All right, I'm going to go ahead and glue this on right in front of the top words I dream of. And that makes this project complete. Let's move on to project number 2. Now this is a 12timbers.com dupe. This is a happy 4th of July pennant for about $11. You can purchase this, not including shipping. I thought let's try it and make it. So my fabric I'm starting out with 9.5 inches wide, 13 inches long. It's just kind of like a thicker muslin type material. First thing I'm going to do is fold it in half long ways, and then I'm going to take the bottom edge and kind of fold up into a little triangle shape. I'm going to iron it just a little bit just to give me a bit more of definition of a line there, and then I'm just going to cut that off. And then as we open it up, that gives us our nice little banner shape. Okay. And then I'm going to use Beacon Fabric Tack glue and sewing here, but if you're, not a sewer, you can just do all Beacon Fabric Tack or hot glue. I'm going to fold it up once and then twice again all the way around, except for the very top, that edge to the left side. So if you're a gluer, you could glue it down once and fold it over, and then glue it down again on top of that and fold it over again. Okay, I'm going to start, though, with this process at the pointed edge, and I'm using my little Cricut mini iron because it kind of just helps to hold it down to, iron down those seams a little bit, right? I'll do both, fold overs. And before I glue anything down, my scissors are going to be straight up and down with the tip, and I'm just going to cut that little folded piece off. So if you can see there, it's straight up and down in alignment with that tip, and just kind of cut that little piece off. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue down that fold over part there. So now I'm to the next side. I'm kind of one fold over I ironed, and I'm going to glue that little tip down on the right side, and then I'm going to fold it over the second time, kind of iron that crease down a little bit so it stays in place better for me, and then I'll glue that part down. So now we've got this nice little kind of fold over both sides, nice little pointed area for us on our banner. And then we're just going to come down around the sides. We don't need to cut anything or do anything here. I'm going to do one fold over, again, iron it down. You don't have to iron it, it just kind of helps hold it down for me. I like to do that. And then add some glue, folding it over down again, just like that. And then the other side, I'll kind of iron it down, fold it over again, iron it down, add my glue so that line is there where I ironed it. It'll fold down nicely. And if you're a gluer, you're done. If you're a sewer, I'm going to come along and just sew down those 4 edges. My sewing machine's really wobbling here. Anyway, not doing anything with that top, horizontal edge across the top, because we're going to glue that down to our little dowel later, so we don't need to worry about that. Now, as I'm sewing this, I'm realizing the thread I'm using is really light, so I will go back in off camera and use a darker thread and kind of, do a second sewing around the perimeter later on, and I'll show you all that. Now, I'm going to come about 1 inch down here, and I'm just going to sew across that top edge there, because on the original picture they have kind of that area sewn across there. If you're a gluer, don't worry about that. Okay, so here's the font I chose. I thought closely kind of resembled or matched, I guess if you want to say, the original project that we are duping. Yes, I'll have a free printable down below for you with the PDF and the PNG, just like we discussed in the first project. And again, I will list the fonts down below, so those of you with electronic cutting machines, you can type it out yourself with the font or clean out the PNG. Those of you with PDFs, you can use black fabric markers here and like carbon paper, trace it on, use your black fabric markers, I can say that. Or buy this from Walmart. It's for light colored fabric. It's iron-on transfer paper. Follow the directions, and once it prints out, you just, closely cut around the image and iron it on. I've used this before in other projects. I'm happy with it. It works nicely. All right, so when I iron stuff on, I like to kind of put when I iron vinyl on anyway, I like to put an extra piece of fabric over the top of the carrier sheet. So that's what I have here. And just ironing that on, and then let that cool. And while it's cooling, I'll show you what I'm going to do for the little fabrics, because they had some little fabric trims hanging off their banner. I'm choosing to use these 2 prints I got from Hobby Lobby. I know the stars are red and not blue, and the stripes are blue and not red, but you could go traditional with some ribbon here if you wanted to use ribbon and not fabric. But I wanted the look of kind of ripped fabric, so I'm just cutting about 1 inch wide on the fabric, and I'll rip it all the way down on both of them. So we're ripping our red stars, and we're going to go ahead and rip our blue stripes. It's just a fun play on it, but it still is Americana to me. All right, and then here is the dowel. I cut it down from the regular size dowel to just about 9 3/4 inches or so. I think the regular dowel is around 12 inches long. And then here's what my looks like here when I went around, talked earlier, went around with the darker thread going around. And so I'm just going to flip the banner over, and at the top, probably about a 1/2 inch down, I'm going to add some Beacon Fabrica glue here, and I'm just going to kind of roll that onto my dowel and get that to set up just a little bit. And then I'm going to come in and add some glue onto the dowel itself, and then continue rolling down until I meet that sewing line in the front. But if you didn't sew that because you're not a sewer, just roll it down about 1 inch or so. I'm going to use macrame cord here for the top. I think I cut maybe 24 inches or so. I just kind of guesstimated. And I'm just going to kind of tie a little knot on both sides of the dowel here, both sides of the banner. And then I'll kind of smush the little ends on each side. But I'm now moving that macrame around so that the little end, I'm going to leave those little ends hang down and smush them like I said. So I just kind of moved, you know, the macrame around so that the little knot's kind of hanging at the bottom there. So it's kind of a back and forth to get it to where my knot in the little end piece is hanging downward. To get my thoughts together there. All right, so here's what that looks like. Now I'm taking 2 of each of those fabrics together, and I'm just tying a knot around the left edge. And I'm tying them in such a way that the pieces will just kind of lay one over the other. So you kind of have to fiddle with it a little bit. The fabric's one-sided, so I'm kind of twisting and turning them so that they lay over each other really nicely. And then I'm just going to cut my fabrics down, ripping off the ends so they're still kind of rustic so that they kind of, you know, the length I want. And I'm going to just use a little Beacon Fabrica glue there to make sure that stays on, makes this project complete. And now let's look at them in comparison. So as you can see, I think they look pretty similar with font and all that, but the one from 12timbers.com came in at $11. Our price came in at $1, a savings of $10, and I'm happy with it. Let's move on to project number 3. So for this project, I'm going to use one of these thick wood circles from Dollar Tree, one of these signs from Dollar Tree, although I don't want the little stake that's on there. I'm going to take that off. I've got one here already, so we just want the circle from it. I'm going to use one of these from Dollar Tree. They've got some that came in different designs. I'm going to use a wood ruler from Dollar Tree. You can just peel off this part. You could use like one of those wide craft sticks if you want to. I'm going to use a wood ruler. I've got one here with the things already pulled off. And off camera, I went ahead and filled the hole in that thick wood circle. And I sanded around one side, you know, on that bigger wood circle. Sanded around the paper off the edge a little bit, and then I cut my ruler down to about 8 inches. I'm going to use a Debbie's Design Diary DIY little black dress chalk paint, and I'm going to paint all of these in that black chalk paint. Yeah, Dollar Tree came out, I don't know if yours has it, you know, we all have different things, but they came out with these nice thick wood pieces on a dowel, and the dowel's pretty substantial too. They had this design, and then they had hearts and stars. And then this, you can use any size circle you want, but I wanted just kind of a nice smaller size circle here because what we're going to use to put on front of it, I wanted to be able to print it out for my computer. And, you know, you only have that, you know, 8.5 by 11 inch size. So I wanted a circle that was, you know, can compensate for only having 8.5 by 11. So finishing up the painting here. The little ruler's kind of going to be a little sign for us to house our little quote here later on. And I'll sand everything off camera, of course. I'm going to use a couple of these hearts from Dollar Tree, as well as these are called chunky wonky hearts. They come in a set of 4, I think 5 from craftingwithkimber.com. I'll have the link down below. It was one from another project, and I'm just going to kind of, freshen up the black paint on it a little bit, but that's why it's already got some paint on it. Just freshen it up, and then I'm going to glue these two hearts together. These came out at Valentine's at Dollar Tree, but I'm gluing them together so they're a little bit thicker, so, they kind of match with the other thicker heart I'm using. And then I'll just come in and paint it with the black paint as well. A little bit of a black paint theme here going on. So the next thing we're going to do is I want my dowel to fit into this thick wood circle base. Now you could just do like a long screw from the bottom up into the dowel, but I want to actually drill a hole. So to find my pattern, I of course traced my circle onto some paper, folded it in half twice, found the center, poked in the center with like a nail. And now I'm taking this 3/8 inch drill bit and I'm going to drill a hole almost down to the bottom without going through the bottom of the circle. I want the bottom to still look nice on the underside. And then that way the dowel is going to fit directly right into that hole perfectly. So obviously, you want to pick a drill bit that's the same size as that dowel, and it'll fit in there nice and tight and secure. We'll wood glue it though, for sure. So here's what my pieces all look like, sanded down a little bit, ready to go, distressed around the edges. Everything good. So this is what I'm going to use for the printable on front of my wood circle. This came from creativefabrica.com. I will have 2 links down below for you because they had 2 sets of call them watch faces, but 2 sets of vintage watch faces. And it just give you some options so you can choose whatever watch face you want to use. But this is the one I liked, and it really looks like the clock hands are sticking out from the paper, right? And I just printed it onto some textured cardstock, nice and simple and easy. Again, the couple of links will be down below for you so you have a choice from creativefabrica.com. All right, and then all I'm going to do is just go ahead and cut this out. I really like this because I liked how the title already said home is where, our story begins or whatever. I loved kind of the rustic of it, but with the beautiful rose print on it. The colors were great. So just cutting this out. And when I printed it, of course, I measured the diameter of my circle and I printed it just about 1/4 of an inch smaller than the circle itself. So then you get that nice border around there. And I used the same cardstock. I cut it a little bit short as well to fit our little, quote unquote ruler sign. And then of course I did the same as in the first project. I have already sewn those. Is I traced my hearts and cut the paper a little bit shorter all the way around to cover the front of my hearts. And yes, it's the same paper as the first project, so everything matches, right? So now I'm going to come in. Here's where I'm coming in with my sewing machine, and I'm sewing around the edges just like we're sewing on regular fabric. And I know my subscriber been with me a while. You could say this from like memory, but have to show it in case we get new people here. And I'm using all polyester thread. My machine likes that, but you can use all cotton thread. And then my stitch length set on 4, the widest width, and my tension set on about 4.5 or so here, and just sew around it. And I'm going to go twice around on this clock just to give it a little bit of design here. Here's what it looks like on the cardstock. You can see it's not straight. I don't care. And then here's what it looks like with kind of a double sewing around the clock face itself. So now we'll kind of move into distressing the edges around all our papers just like we did in the first project. And again, it just gives it a little rustic. It helps pop that paper up off the wood. Here's what it looks like up close with that little border around it. It really does work. It looks nice. And again, here's what it looks like on the larger, thicker heart. Again, those hearts, I'll have links down below in the description box for those. And so I'll continue on with the open end of my scissor blades. Here's what it looks like on the cardstock. And then on the clock itself. And now I'm going to take some of that black chalk paint. I'm going to add a little water, make it a little bit soupy, and I'm going to add some splatters onto all my papers. I like to use a fan brush. You can use a toothbrush, regular paintbrush, but what I do is kind of, swipe it into the paint, wipe off the excess, and then I tap my fan brush to get the splatters. It gives me a little more control over the splatters with the fan brush, and it makes the splatters more smaller. Okay, so here's the quote I'm going to use on this one. Now, I start with this one, but in the end and the final stages, you're going to see a different quote. Again, PDF, PNG down below for you. So I give you this first quote, just like I started with, but I'm also going to give you the design for what I end up with, which is this one. Now, if you're going to use the PDF, you might want to run it through onto your cardstock first before you cut it to fit your ruler or craft stick, whatever you're going to use for your sign. Okay, it makes that easy. So I'm getting this onto my cardstock here, peel off the carrier sheet there, and then I'm going to go ahead and glue this down onto my sign. Yeah, as I got to look at it as a whole, it was like the font didn't really kind of match the clock itself, so that's why I changed it, but I wanted to give you guys an option as well. So now I'm just gluing down both pieces of heart paper, or both pieces of check paper to the hearts, and now I'm going to use this quick grip beacon glue. I found it at Walmart, and I actually kind of like it. It is really quick. I'm going to add a little bit of glue into that. I was going to use wood glue, but decided to go with the quick grip beacon glue. That's hard to say really fast. I'll get that dowel into the center in that hole, and then I'm going to add some more of that quick grip glue onto that little polygon shape there and onto the back of my sign, and just kind of let that set up. 15 minutes or so, and it was ready to start working with. Now I'm going to go ahead, beacon Fabrica glue, and glue our clock face onto the front of our wood circle there. Going to glue the smaller heart at the front of our quote on our sign. Now our sign is a little wobbly here because we're on a dowel, so I just have this little piece of wood here. I'm going to just nail that in, the tiny little like picture nails. I'm going to nail that into that cardstock. I end up actually using 2 little nails, so it gives me a little more surface to wood glue our sign onto. And then marking it here where it's going to hit my ruler. Now the ruler on the back, I'm going to add some cardboard top and bottom in those indented spaces where we took off the little measurement sticker, right? That way it brings it up to level, and then it gives us more gluing surface onto our little piece that's on our dowel. You can see the 2 nails on that little piece down below. And I'm going to lay this so it's slanted. I did that on purpose. You know how I like things straight. And then I'm going to add the little chunky heart at the bottom of our clock sign, and that makes this project complete. So I hope you like all 3 of these projects. Leave me a comment down below and let me know which project is your favorite. I can't change up my sentence, y'all, because every time I go to do these videos at the end, and I'm like, I need a different question or a different way for you to comment. But I just love reading which ones you like, because it really does help me to be like, okay, you know, how I need to go with future projects. So leave me a comment and let me know which one is your favorite. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. That way it just catches that YouTube algorithm, and those YouTube people just play it and play it and play it over and over again, and it really helps my channel to grow. If you walked in here for the first time and you're just checking things out and you're digging what you saw, make sure before you click off, you hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss out on another project from me. Now before I go, I'm going to leave you with one final thought. Allow God to take you to the highest of heights and to the deepest of depths to see His mercy and grace as He helps you to discover and unravel all those things that you're trying desperately to achieve in perfectionism. Allow Him to help you grasp a more infinite, better hold of who you think you are or who you think you should be, and together you will discover that He has molded you into a beautiful container, overflowing with His tender, adoring love of who He made you to be, and who you will continue to be in His presence. He is what you should always see when you look at yourself in the mirror, because His goodness will follow you all the days of your life. Always try and be present in everything He wants for you in your life. He will always give you a crown of beauty over ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair, so that you will be called an oak of righteousness, strong and magnificent, distinguished for integrity and justice, and have a right standing with God, that in and through it all He may be glorified in your life. You are worthy of His love, never undeserving of it. You are special and never uncommon. You are one of a kind with all the spectacular attributes God wanted your soul to have. You are strong in your thoughts and desires, never weak and breakable, because God's strength and fire lives in you. You are loved by Him and will never be hated. He will always know the worth of your soul because it is so full of the love and adoration that He made you with, uncompromising, full of compassion, and filled with His promises now and forevermore. And I want you to believe that with your whole heart. I thank you for sharing your time with me, and I'll talk with you again soon. Bye.